footy fantasy. It is your city thing go meet your football needs. Banter from rivalries, he sure you go receive. From EPL to Champions League, your eyes go see. It's footy fantasy, yeah, watching footy fantasy, footy fantasy. It is your city thing go meet your football need, your football need. Banter from rivalries, he sure you go receive, sure you go receive. From EPL to Champions League, your eyes go see, your eyes go see. It's footy fantasy, footy fantasy.
All right, welcome, guys. This is the first time some of you have heard our jingle. This is the first time I'm seeing it on the show. So well done to Saji. Saji was the one who produced, I think he produced, recorded, sang, everything. But yes, welcome to Footy Fantasy Podcast on, what day is this? North London Derby Day. As you can see, the Arsenal fans and the crew are happy. And I'm not sure why we have Dada, so we'll start with Dada. Welcome to the show, Dada.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. And then Mondieu has been on the show a few times. This is your third time, I believe. So welcome back. Always good to see you.
Yep, thanks for having me.
And as you guys know, I'm EJ, and I'll be your host today. But before we jump in, let me go ahead and plug our social media handles. If you don't follow us yet, follow us on YouTube, subscribe at Footy Fantasy. On Twitter, we're pretty active, and we're at Footy AD Fantasy. And on Instagram, we have Fantasy Footy. You can see our highlights from all our shows. So we're going to jump right in. Anyway, I'm not sure. These are weird questions. I'm wondering if I didn't get this edited. Sorry. 1 second. All right. Sorry. We're going to jump right into thoughts on the North London Derby. So, Mondieu, I'm going to let you start first because guess what? I did not watch that game. I couldn't watch it. I was busy. I could only try to sneak in and watch highlights or I watched like maybe 5 true minutes of the game, but I didn't watch it from the beginning to start to the end. So I can speak to what happened, but I'll let you tell us what actually happened.
Okay, so how do I start? I was trying to watch the game because I knew I was going to come here and do some analysis. So I was trying to watch the game objectively without a lot of like the sentimental bias or the sentimental spin of an Arsenal fan. But it was quite difficult for me because I was very nervous going into the game. I know in our last 2 visits to Spurs, we picked up 3 points, on every visit. So I knew that was incredibly difficult. I think the last 20 years, we've only won there. Last 20 years under Arsene Wenger, I think we won there 3 times only. Even during the Invincibles, the season we won the league under the Invincibles, we didn't win our Spurs. It's incredible. It's very difficult to win our Spurs. So I was and I looked at what they did against Newcastle. They had 20 shots, and I knew we were going to be a bit pragmatic because we're missing Rice and Martin Odegaard. Rice makes us incredibly difficult to break down because he's one of the best players off the ball with the work he does in midfield. And Martin Odegaard is our trigger. He presses, he leads the press, he conducts the press. He's our, creative hub. He connects the Saka, Ben White, Martin Odegaard triangle. It's like the leader of that triangle. Like, he was just massive. So I had all these thoughts in my head, and going into the game, I expected Spurs to just be all over us. And then the game starts. I see that they picked a really aggressive attacking formation with Bentancur at the base of a midfield 3, and then it was obvious that they were just gonna run at us. But what I liked about what we did was that Thomas Partey and Jorginho were just sat in this mid to low block. They were not adventurous. They didn't try and chase anything that wasn't there to be won. And we off the ball, I think we set up in a 4-4-2. So Partey and Jorginho together in a double pivot, and then Martinelli and Bukayo were coming inside. Very similar to what Yamal and Nico Williams did at the Euros, where they assisted that midfield a lot. I think they were assisting Rodri and um, uh, Fabian Fabian Ruiz, right? So they did a lot of heavy lifting. So that was good. And again, Kai Havertz worked really hard. Trossard was right behind him, plugging in. So first 20 minutes, I thought we did well. We managed them. We sent them to the side, and then I think Saliba picked up a yellow that affected his game a bit. He had to keep it quiet. I think he really wanted to go there with Spurs. He really wanted to give everything he got or he had. But he picked up the yellow early. But Arsenal created the better chances in the first half. We created the better clear-cut chances. Martinelli had a brilliant chance where he had two opportunities. He had two options. The first option was to square the ball to Bukayo Saka one time, and then he delayed, and then the opportunity went, and then he tried to take a shot. What he should have probably done was take a couple of steps forward, get closer to Vicario, then take the shot. But I don't think he's in a very good place right now. I think he has confidence issues right now. But overall, that first half, Arsenal created the best chances, even though Spurs had more possession, but they weren't really doing any damage. It wasn't. They didn't create a lot of danger. Madison was on the ball a lot, but then every time he got on the ball, the mid Arsenal's mid block was just solid. He knew he wasn't going anywhere, and they also tried to be less adventurous because they knew we were just trying to do to them what we did to them last season. We were trying to release our white players, so they tried to be more pragmatic on the ball. But Madison, the only thing he tried to do to pry us open was to cross the ball to Solanke. That was the only thing he tried to do. Other than that, like it was an average game from him. And all credit to that mid block that Arteta put together because it got to a point in the second half we were almost conducting an orchestra in terms of where we wanted Spurs to go.
Okay.
Okay, get the centre backs to get on the ball. They tried to play Bentancur in or Sark, because Sark came in for Bentancur afterwards. And then we would just wait. We'll just wait for them to try and come through the middle, and then they see that it's blocked. You don't really see the block, but you see that we were just waiting. It was like a trap that we were setting, and they saw the trap and they knew, oh no, we're not going to do that because every time we get the ball, or if Arsenal should get the ball, then Van de Ven's hamstring might go because he would have, you know, chase the ball back. So they kept on going to the flanks, and Timber and Ben White were just waiting. Timber, most especially, my man of the match. He was incredible. I think overall we got the goal from a counter that we had. Kai Havertz did really well, bringing the ball down, bringing Bukayo Saka into play, and he tries to take a shot, goes out for a corner kick, and then the corner kick. Obviously, I think we had a couple, but this one in particular, Saka plays it right in front of Vicario. Like I don't know why Vicario didn't come out for it, but of course we know he's not very strong aerially. But he plays it right in front of him, and then Romero was on our most potent player aerially, uh, Gabriel, and then he wasn't really concentrated. Like he wasn't really. He just took his eye off the ball and he
Yeah.
just let him go. And the moment he goes, you let Gabriel go, he kills you. And Gabriel just punished them. And the way he celebrated was so passionate, was so big, was so good. Like the way he, North London Derby, a monstrosity of a defender, and he celebrates like that. And I just knew we were actually going to win. And we just closed out the game. I'll just stop it there. I can go on forever, but
No. I think this is important to. The reason I let you keep going is because obviously I didn't watch the game, so I needed a good summary of what happened. So I enjoying listening to what to your perspective. So that was a great summary. I think it ties in with what I saw from my highlights, and I do think that celebration was passionate. Also with Saliba, Saliba just Saliba is a hype guy, so like he's one of those. And I mean, they understand what it means. Like we were a depleted squad. We went. I saw the list of people not there, and it seemed longer than I didn't realize. Like we've talked about this before on Twitter, how we have 11 makeshift or actual left backs, and there was only one that could play today. So like, where are these other people? They're
I
not there.
know.
So
I know.
half the team is out, and we are. I think I was concerned going in. I wasn't confident that we would just beat Spurs. Everyone was saying how we should beat. It's not an easy team to beat, and we're playing at their stadium. So one goal, 1-0 to the Arsenal. Important win coming up because we know what's coming up next.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, did you watch a game?
Yeah, I did bits and pieces of it. I mean, of course, I'm not going to go into as much detail as it did, but yeah, bits and pieces of it. I mean, I thought going into the game that was going to be a draw because you guys had some notable injuries, right? Odegaard was out, and I think Rice didn't play as well.
He's red card.
Oh, I had a red card from the Brighton game. So yeah, so I mean, there were parts of. I mean, the game should have ended in a draw, right? I thought like on the balance of play, but then the
Me
last
would have.
could have, right? The last 25 minutes, I mean, Spurs were just they had no attacking precision. It was almost like the combination play between Son and Solanke was missing. So yeah, I mean, it's a good win. Of course, EJ, you know this. You guys are going to win the title come end of the season. So staying as close to City as much as you can makes all the sense. So yeah, I mean, but also too historically, you guys have won at White Hart Lane like 3 games in a row now.
Yes. Yeah.
So I mean that comes into play, right? When you go on this kind of short-term runs, it doesn't matter what the form is. Now, what's kind of worth mentioning is, are we looking at a demise of Spurs, right? Because I remember this time last year, everyone had earmarked them as the title winners, and Angie's doing this marvelous thing at Spurs, and we really need to pay attention to them. But their bad form it actually started last season, and it's extending into this season as well, right? I think they've lost 2 games, drew 1 and won 1.
Yeah.
Right.
That's their current record.
Yeah, that is their current record. So, I mean, I think there's a lot to be said about that team and how they're. I mean, I don't want to use the term imploding because you cannot implode in the beginning of the season because you've not built up enough momentum to implode. But they're on this terrible run, and the manager is just one of those cats that sticks to his guns, plays the way he wants to play no matter what. There will be an interesting team to watch this season. I am not convinced that they're going to replicate the form that they did last season. But yeah, it's yet to be determined. So really, for the most part of this season, if you look at all the teams, most teams have extended their run from last season, right?
Yeah.
Same with Spurs, same with City, and of course Arsenal, the favorites to win the league, are just you guys are doing what you did last season. So there's just not a lot to take away from this game. It almost felt like business as usual. But what I will say, though, is for Arsenal, one thing that became evident in this game is your defense is starting to become a critical part of the team and your success, especially defending of set pieces. And I think out of the top 4 teams, you guys scored the most goals through set pieces and conceded the least goals in set pieces. So in a game where, you depleted midfield and attacking, having your defensive talent come through for you makes all the difference. So business as usual, in my opinion, nothing to highlight. And then Chelsea made the mistake of gifting you guys Sterling, huge, massive talent. So the tradition of taking, good talent from Chelsea continues. So, yeah.
That's yet to be seen. How did he do? He had a cameo for like 10 minutes. I know.
Oh, he was fantastic as usual. I mean, Sterling, right?
Not you.
He was okay. Sterling, it was interesting watching him again. I wouldn't say because it's just early days, right? So it was 10 minutes against Spurs, difficult position, but I was expecting him to be sharper than what I saw. I didn't know, maybe because it's interesting when you watch players play for your team. You look at them differently. You assess them, like you assess them in forensic detail. It's like I always tell people, if you want to really look into a player, probably consider putting money on that player to do well or not to do well. Like, okay, put X amount on Bruno to score or Bruno to get an assist. Then you really assess Bruno. And that's when you probably pick up the things that Manchester United fans don't like about him. So when I was watching Raheem, I felt he looked leggy when he was trying to track back for um, at one point, and then he had this opportunity where he should have passed and he didn't pass. He wanted to beat like two, three players, and I was thinking, oh, we don't want that Raheem. We want like the decisive Raheem. So it was an interesting cameo from him, but the thing with Raheem Sterling is he's going to play over, I would say, close to 40 games for Arsenal this season. Because
Oh,
we just have, yeah, because we have a lot of
we have
games.
we
Like
have games.
we have a lot of games, we have a lot of inconsistencies
Right.
in that position. Like Martinelli, Trossard, you don't know what you're gonna get. So Raheem is gonna play a lot. He can play on the right as well. He can play through the middle if you just need to drop the ball. Like there's a lot of, he can play across the front line, so he can solve a lot of problems for us. So I'm not too worried.
I
Okay.
mean, jokes apart, right? The acquisition of Sterling is not to be the extra body to help you win the league, right? I think one thing a lot of football clubs have realized is it's going to be a congested schedule, right? So you're going to need as much players as you can get. Uh, a lot of Chelsea fans have their frustrations with him because he's consistently inconsistent, and
Hmm.
that's what you're gonna get. So in the last what I mean, you're making that face, but that's Raheem Sterling, right? His decision making at crucial times is questionable. But one thing he's able to do is, when you have legged fullbacks, he's able to come in and really, work them out and do something magical. But if you're gonna bank your entire season on Raheem Sterling being consistent, then you're far away from being a serious team. So I think he will give you the good minutes. He's gonna do. You're gonna have the occasional man. You should have done X, but you're doing Y. I mean, that's part of his game. And one thing people like to not I won't say like to forget. Or one thing we've forgotten is it was like that at City. But the thing about
Right.
City was City has so many good players to where 30 bad decisions, right, just didn't hurt you as much because you had other players around you who were just very clinical, were very technical to where they can offset some of those bad decisions, right? And that's why we didn't see that flow as much. So, I mean, good signing for Arsenal. I mean, it's a loan, right? It's not like,
That's alone.
yeah, it's a loan. And also, too, you're sharing the wages with Chelsea. So it's not even affecting your bottom line as much. So all things considered, it's a good addition.
Okay, okay. Well, that's enough of that. We'll move on to the next topic, and that will be thoughts on Arteta contract extension till 2027. So we'll keep this short because we spend a lot of time on the other topic. If you're anything other than happy, then I don't understand. Mon Dieu, let me hear from you.
Yeah, of course. I think he was always going to get that extension. It's There's a different conversation to be had in terms of trophies, but if you take stock of what he's done since he joined, the struggles he had, how he fought his battles, the mistakes he made, and the positive strides that we've experienced over time, I think he has to get that contract extension, and they have to put that in the bag as quickly as possible, which they've done. There's a lot of positives that we can take from the work that Teta has done. I think the trophies will come if he continues to improve, and it's demonstrated that he can actually improve because we keep getting more points year on year, which is crucial. And that's why a few people think we can actually go and do it this season because we are likely going to accumulate more than 90 points if we continue from where we stopped, which we have done, Brighton aside. So I look back and I consider. I look back at where Ateta started and I consider where we are now. I think I'm quite happy with him. And also, more importantly, I think people respect Arsenal more now For a long time, we didn't have that respect, or we stopped having that respect, and that's quite important for a club of Arsenal size. I think Arteta went through a really difficult period, but where we are now, look at what we did last season. We didn't let Manchester City score any goal against us. Two legs, that's incredible. We got 4 points from them, got 6 points from Manchester United. It's always been difficult going to Old Trafford, regardless of what state they are in. We got 6 points. We got 4 points from Chelsea. We got 6 points from Spurs. No, 4 points from Spurs. 4 points from Liverpool. It's incredible. Like, we didn't lose to the traditional Big Four last season. The only team that got better of us was Aston Villa, and we've almost redressed our problem this season. I mean, partially redressed it this season. So, the only thing he hasn't done is to win the Premier League or win the Champions League. But we know how difficult that is, especially if you're competing with Pep, right? Like Pep, the best manager I've ever seen, and he's gone and got the best goal scorer we have available right now. You bring those two together, and he has the best team in the world. For me, Man City are the best team in the
Yeah.
world because when they face Madrid, they actually play Madrid like they don't respect them. Like, okay, would you guys think you are? We're just gonna have a game and we'll give you a game. So they're not afraid of Madrid. They don't have that, oh, it's Madrid factor. No, they don't care. So that's what Ateta is up against. So I always consider that. So it's not, there's a different conversation to be had when we talk about him needing to go and actually win, regardless of what City are or what Pep is. However, you also have to put into consideration how difficult that is. So you bring it together, you say take stock of everything overall. You say he's done well and he actually deserved it.
Yeah. Okay. Before I comment, I'm going to take this comment from Aya. This is regarding the last topic. It looks like Arteta has found a system that works against Ange Highline. They let them have all the ball in non-dangerous positions. Sure. I'm sure that's what happened because I can't say yes or no. And now he said any fear that he gets poached by Barca or City if he doesn't get any major trophy over the line over the next 3 years. So let me say my thoughts and then we'll discuss that. So obviously I'm Team Arteta and I've been that way for a few years now. And I think you said it all because I mean, when you put into context what he was able to do from 2019 when he joined, was it 2019? End of 2019, December, going to now, the progress is clear. And we know next year, everyone's trying to forget, but we know Pep did not renew his contract and doesn't plan to. And he's leaving in 2025. So City was going to knock on the door. And if we didn't seal this deal, they would have come and, try to get him. So I think we had to do it now. We had to make it clear that we're not letting him go. I think his loyalty is to us. I think he believes in the project himself too. So when Ayo says this, that are we afraid that he'll get poached? The question is, are we going to let him go in 3 years if he doesn't win a trophy versus is he going to want to go if he doesn't win a trophy? I think those are two different questions. And I still think that if he doesn't win the trophy in 3 years, I'm going to want to know why. I'm going to have to see what happened in 3 years. So I can't really speak to that. I think trophies are what is missing. That always on the side, we have these conversations and he thinks I'm someone who doesn't care for trophies. I think I've convinced him that trophies aren't a do or die affair. But my thing is this with trophies. I mean, it's nice, but at the end of the day, all these teams that go for trophies, they forget about the next second. Look at Manchester United. Like, they won the FA Cup. They're still angry. Like, it doesn't fulfill you. What you want to see is your team play well. And if they play well and they do it continuously, trophies will come. So I'm not really concerned over the next year. I think we will win something over the next year. I don't think it'll be this year. I think we'll win it next year. Hopefully we can win it this year, but I think we'll win Premier League next. That's my ultimate prediction. And I think he needs to be, I mean, we signed him obviously, so that's not a problem. He needs to be the one there to do it. Like, he's the one that's brought this team back into contention, respectability, like you said. And yeah, that's what we've wanted. Like, Arsenal fans have, yes, you say we're loud, yes, you say we're obnoxious, but now we can actually back it up. Like, maybe the last 10 years ago we couldn't say anything, but now you can because
Because what?
We're the second most important team in the country, and we're the
Um,
most important
yeah.
team in England because we're in the most important city in England. That's how I see it. So yeah, I think we're in good hands. I think the Cronkies they're supporting him, even though they didn't really sign important people for our team this year. But yeah, I just think we need to keep going. And like Manju said, we have shown that we can produce progress. So why not? Sorry, I just saw this comment. I said major trophy, EPL and UCL. He has already won the FA Cup, right?
Yeah, I think he's right. I think you look at the young managers coming up in Europe right now. Like, how many managers would you say? How many young managers would you say are better than Mikel Arteta right now? Like, you don't have a lot. Like, is you look at Pep and his generation, the Ancelottis and their generation. You assess the young generation of managers now, and Arteta is up there. So in amongst the crop of these young up and coming managers doing it now in Europe, you are going to have your Peps, you're going to have your Joses, you have your Ancelottis. What do I mean by that? Like the elite of the elite. You don't you're not categorized as elite if you don't deliver the biggest of the biggest trophies. That's and the difference is you can do good work. You can do like what Spurs did, what Poch did at Spurs. The, during that time, we had a lot of solid managers doing their bit. We had guys in Germany, guys in Italy that were really really good managers, but because they didn't really deliver the big trophies, they weren't really stacked up there, right? And I think Arteta wants to be considered as one of the best managers in the world. Arteta wants to be considered as elite. He's incredibly aggressive in his approach. He's a very pragmatic manager and he puts everything into it. Like he's like very aggressive about it. So I think he wants to win and I think he wants to get those trophies and I think he's going to do it as long as I think the only thing that just worries me a bit is the investment in attacking gladiators. Like we just I was just on the RTV and we had a big conversation about Martinelli. The reason it's a big conversation is because we don't have a lot of depth in
Right.
that position where one player is not really confident and not doing it. You always bring in another player, and they have to work their socks off to get their position back. I don't think we have enough depth to do that. If anything should happen to Bukayo Saka now, we'll probably be in trouble because we're thinking we need someone to be just as excellent. To take
Right.
a lot of pressure off him and contribute to our attack. So I think that's the only area where he needs to really focus on and be very ruthless as well.
Okay. Dada, what do you think? Do you think we should have let him go? I'm just kidding. What do you think?
No, I mean, like, there's really nothing to add, right? I mean, looking at it as a rival fan, I kind of hope that Arteta has failed. But I think there's a lesson to be learned about having alignment between your manager, the vision, and kind of like the owners of the club. And I think that's what you guys unlocked, right? You guys backed Arteta all through, and yeah, keeping him to 2027 makes sense. But one thing I do think though is you know Arsenal has been knocking on the door for what 2, 3 seasons now on EPL.
You say 2 years.
2 years, right? You stand the risk. So eventually, I mean, Liverpool did this, right? They got close and they won it. If you build enough momentum and you don't win it, what happens is, another team is going to overtake you, and then you're not going to be competing with two teams. So I think that you guys have to win it this season. Like I'm not trying to. I mean, there's no pressure, but you just have to win it this season because now next season you're also banking on keeping the same group of players.
Yes.
You're banking on the manager still being fresh and motivated. Managers are like human beings. After a while, it's hard for you to consistently knock at the door without you either one, just losing motivation, or two, having a bigger club ask for your services. So I agree with Ayo. If you guys don't win the EPL this season or a major trophy, the next season is kind of unlikely because at the end of the day, if City comes knocking, he is going to leave, right?
That's what I'm saying. I don't think that will happen.
Really, why do you say that?
Why would he go to City?
But why not?
Look at what is hanging over City's head, and why would
Well,
you?
that's going to fly over. So, I belong to the camp that the 115 charges, it's the most that will come out of it are just going to be fines. Nothing detrimental. And all that is going to blow away this season.
Are
Okay,
you sure?
so let's say all that comes out is fines. Now there's asterisks on their name. In my opinion, there is fines,
These
but
folks
there's
don't care.
asterisks.
They don't care. With
Why
enough
would
money and
he?
ambition, it's not going to care. Because here's what's going to happen. It's going to leave Arsenal with a rhetoric of, hey, look, guys, I did my best. You're all in good hands. I've supported this club, and now it's time for me to go look out for me. And City's going to offer him a great platform. He's going to take over. These folks are ambitious, just like you and I. So
Yeah,
if a good opportunity comes along, of course he's going to take it.
this is my thought. He will never go to City. That's
But,
just
but what? He doesn't lack ambition. Why wouldn't he go to City?
no. I think he will not go to City out of loyalty
Loyalty to whom?
to Arsenal.
Okay.
I'm just saying that I think it's like saying Klopp will go to.
But then again, so
Everton.
we could talk about loyalty in terms of maybe him going to Spurs or Chelsea. But the rivalry between Arsenal and
No, the rivalry between Arsenal and City is major now.
there is no
The
rivalry.
last 2 years.
I'm sorry. No, I wouldn't call that.
Yeah, of
rivalry.
course there is a rivalry. We finished second twice. They overtook us. We're not
there's
happy with them.
look. There's no animosity between.
I don't
City.
bet, Dada. I don't bet, but I will bet that there's no way, no matter what happens, even if Arsenal lets him go, he's going to leave the country before he goes to City.
Wow.
That's an easy call
Okay.
for me.
Hey, stranger things have happened.
Yeah, none of these people are staying in the same city. Like only Jose Mourinho did that crap, and Conte. That's because they don't like y'all, Chelsea.
Well, one thing I know for a fact that a lot of these guys are very ambitious. They have drive. They want to coach at the highest.
Look at Pep. He had all the drive. He's not going to know Girona. I didn't even say Real Madrid. He's not going to another.
Yeah, but the rivalry, but you also understand it's Catalan. So the rivalry between Real Madrid and Barcelona extends outside of this. It's tribal, right?
Yeah.
I just don't see the rivalry between City and Arsenal. Just to summarize, I feel like this is Arsenal's year. And I also feel like this is also a critical year in the sense that you build enough momentum. If you don't capitalize on that this year, then the probability reduces next season and going forward.
I says most of the modern day managers don't care. He worked there already. That's where he started his career. You guys didn't watch the interview, clearly. All right.
But we can move on.
Yeah. We'll move on to what's up. This is your topic. What's up with the Clearlake and Boehly? How do you say his name? Boehly or Beely?
Boehly
ownership crisis at Chelsea. I should know now because you guys cry about him so many times.
I don't cry.
You
about
don't.
It. Yes. So the primary reason why I'm on the podcast today is to talk about that. And I don't know if you all have been following. So right now, within the Chelsea ownership structure, there is and people use the word crisis. I just don't. That's not a term that I'm going to use to describe this. There is a disagreement, which is expected, between the two ownership group, right? So just to break it down, Clearlake Capital, they own, I believe, 68% of the club, and then the other owners own 32%, right? Okay. And so there's this current rift of where Clearlake Capital wants to buy out Todd Boehly and the rest of the ownership, and Todd Boehly himself also wants to buy out Clearlake Capital, right? But to really talk about the crisis itself, I think is worth kind of going back to how Chelsea got here, right? So if you all remember, summer of 2022, you had the Ukraine-Russian war, right? And what followed that was a series of sanctions by Western countries. And I remember in 2022, there was a lot of fans, non-Chelsea fans, who were really banging on the table, oh, we need to sanction Russia. And not to get political, I've always been in the camp of sanctioning makes no impact, right? When the sanction happened, the Russian ruble was at $50, right? And now post-sanction is gone up to $90, right? It's gone up 90, almost 2x in value. So now we can now say definitively that sanctions had no impact on Russia, right? So all this entire exercise of seizing yachts and seizing asset made no impact on Russia's economy. If anything, it might even strengthen the economy. So So that's how Chelsea got into this mess. So Chelsea sold the club to Todd Boehly and group in May. So Roman was sanctioned in March. The asset was sold in May. And why is that critical? And the reason or that action is what led us to where we are now. So imagine you're trying to sell a 3.5 billion asset or 4.25 billion asset in 3 months. When I bought my house, it took me 2 months to close. Now you're trying to close a $4 billion asset in 3 months. And the reason was because the British government put a lot of pressure on Roman and everyone. Hey, you have to sell this thing as a fire sale. So you essentially had a rushed sale process, right? Where, they had about 250 interested buyers. They narrowed it down to 12 and they went with 4, right? So the entire process was very rushed. So what came out of that process is you essentially had groups where like, look, I don't want to do this by myself. Can you come in with me? Let's bid on this club. Let's win it. And we'll figure out the details later, right? So that is how Chelsea got into this mess. It was a rushed sale process. You had 2 groups who, they came together to buy the club and they bought it in a rush sale. And now, 2 years later, Todd Boehly and Boehly of Clearlake Capital, they're starting to figure out, I don't like pepperoni on my pizza. I like cheese on my pizza. And then all of a sudden, there's a conflict in between those 2 parties. So I think that is a short history of how we got here. And that's, quote unquote, the reason for the crisis. So long story short, I do think the consortium-led ownership do have an advantage in the sense that, you can share risk, you can share capital. But disadvantage to that is when you have multiple owners, right, it's very hard for them to align on everything, right? And that's why oftentimes decisions that came out of Chelsea looked very chaotic. It was very chaotic because you have multiple ownership. So trying to create alignment between 2 people, and it's not just 2 parties, very egotistical people. Billionaires don't become billionaires by being humble. They become billionaires by being egotistical. And they pay a lot of money for control. So each party believes, look, my way of doing things is the better way, and I'm well positioned to add value to Chelsea. And that's a conflict that we're seeing exhibit itself now. Personally, I don't know how it's going to shake out long term. It's hard to tell. But I think what's going to happen is you're going to have Clearlake Capital buy out Todd Boehly and his group, and they're going to be the sole owner going forward. So that's sort of the gist in a nutshell. But now, what does that mean from a footballing perspective?
Yeah.
So I think from a footballing perspective, from what I've read, both ownership structures they're aligned on long-term strategy. So they have this long-term view of, Chelsea needs capital to develop. We need to modernize. You need a long-term manager. But I think where they differ is on the day-to-day affair. So I think one camp is more on the micromanaging. I want to be involved with everything. And another camp is more hands-off. In private equity investments, if I invest $1 in you, I own you. I want to know what's going on with you 24/7. So I get why they are like that. But football is not. I mean, what works well in business, there are elements of it that may not translate over to football, right? I think, from my opinion, the best way to run a football club, and I've never run a football club, is you hire the best people and you let them do what they do. Mm-hmm. So I think in that aspect, Todd Boehly might be right. But I also think, too, if you invest in a business, you want to know how every dollar is flowing through from the balance sheet to the net income. So personally, I'm torn because there's a part of me who's a Chelsea fan that, I want a single owner, single alignment like Roman, like, Man City, PSG. Because one of the advantages of having a single owner is you can make decisions swiftly. Like, you don't have to go through multiple board members. There's no misalignment. If the Man City group wants to fire Pep and hire EJ, they can do that in 20 days, right? But for Chelsea, for every decision we have to make, we have to go through multiple board owners who are going to have different interests and different views and opinions. And I'll give you an example. Before Poch got fired, I heard from a credible source back in UK in the financial sector that said Todd Boehly actually had dinner with Poch and he wanted to keep Poch, right? I remember telling folks in my Chelsea group that Poch is not going anywhere. Right. Then 2 days later, the Clearlake group wanted to fire Poch. So I think that was what started the rift between both parties, right? Yeah. But yeah, it's quite interesting. Chelsea is going to be chaotic, I think, for the rest of 2024 and maybe 2025, and hopefully we can resolve that and we can put that behind us. So that was a long-winded way of saying I'm not concerned, but also too, I think I hope you guys can get an appreciation of how we got here. Right, the underlying cause was Chelsea was a fire sale. A lot of the things that should have been implemented before closing their deal were not implemented, right? In negotiating deals, there's something called condition precedent, where you essentially say, hey, look, we're going to agree on this now. For example, EJ, if you and I want to do a business and I'm like, look, I don't want you to have dreadlocks. You're like, well, I kind of want to keep my dreadlocks. We can push that down the road and say, okay, in 6 months, we're going to address it. So what happens now is with 2 years, it's time to address those issues, and it's starting to become a material issue. But I think, I don't know, money people are different. They'll figure it out. They'll buy each other out. It'll get sorted out. I'm not worried.
Okay. It's a great summary. I'm going to take some comments. Aya says the two major things I read that they already disagreed on was, so I think he said this while you were saying that, firing Poch and lack of progress on the stadium project. This hater, what's his name? Prince AY says, big man on the panel, I truly salutes, good sir. I think he's talking to you, Dada. Then he says he should stop quickly because he wants to sing What Do We Think of Tottenham? Should have joined earlier, Prince AY. Sorry, we've already talked about Tottenham. We didn't even insult Tottenham. We didn't have much to say about them. We're like, they are Tottenham. That's who they are. And he said, even EJ, damn. EJ looks bored. I wasn't bored at all. But yeah, good discussion. I don't really understand y'all's issues. I think Boehly was also it sounds like you're trying to say Boehly is more football oriented, like football minded than the other owners, which I've never really, maybe I have seen that he is, but I've always assumed that he's very erratic, even with his football mindset. He's always trying to insert his opinions and he's not letting the experts do what they do. That's kind of how I've always seen Boehly as a person.
So I think the issue with current Chelsea ownership is they're trying to do a lot of disruption, right? And it just in life, anytime you find people who are trying to do something new, they appear insane or stupid to the outsiders until they execute. So there's a part of Chelsea that's trying to disrupt how we approach football management, how we do transfers, things like longer term amortization. Prior to Todd Boehly coming in, the Chelsea owners coming in, it was automatic. You give a player a 5-year contract, right? And then you spread the asset over 5 years. Now they're like, why should we do that for 5 years? Let's do it for 9. And then also too, look at how they circumvented the financial rules by essentially buying, reselling an hotel to themselves, right? That's what Chelsea did. I don't know if you heard about that. We essentially sold a property that was owned at the local level to another entity. It's not scamming, but it's financial engineering. And private equity firms in the US have been doing that for a long time. But due to the fact that the UK, especially the EPL, is very archaic in its practice, that's why the cities of the world are always going to have 115 charges, because City, Chelsea, some of these bigger clubs, they can hire like a host of lawyers and investment bankers to do work that by the time the EPL figures out the loophole, it's like 7 years later, because they got some accountants in some dungeon called Mike. They're still reading financials on a piece of paper. So anyways, I say that to say, like, there are a lot of genius things that the Chelsea ownership are doing and trying to implement. But there's also a lot of stupid things they're doing as well, because I often see this happen with financial people where, I've made a lot of money in chemicals and I'm smart when it comes to football. They tend to transpose their knowledge and their expertise across multiple industries based on egos, right? So you have Todd Boehly and this guy saying very, very stupid things on air because they automatically figured out, guess what? If I made $2 billion on selling pipeline, I could also do this again in football. But I'd like to think they've learned their lesson and they've actually, tracked back on a lot of the public appearances. But overall, it's hard for me to say who's better at football, honestly. I just think they know what they're doing when it comes to deal structuring. Whether they're good at football is TBD. Until you win something, right? Until you actually get a good performance on the pitch, it's hard to really give you a score on that.
It's fair. That's great. Mondi, do you have anything to add?
No, like what I have to say, I think it's just banter. I'm actually enjoying the mess at Chelsea. It's very interesting. Can it just continue like this, please? I remember how Chelsea became a powerhouse. I remember where we were, and I remember how aggressively Abramovich just, took us apart. He came in at a very, very difficult time for Arsene Wenger. Like that was when he thought he was gonna go into this Emirates era and we're gonna try and cope and still try and compete, right? But again, Chelsea just came in with Jose. Like it's been really difficult for us. So seeing Chelsea struggle now it's stuff of legends, right? So
Struggle is a stretch, though.
no, you guys are struggling.
Compared to for your own,
I mean, I'm talking about the Chelsea that won how many league titles? Like the last 20
Yeah,
years.
I mean,
Because
20
you
years.
guys won 2 Champions League titles. You won multiple league titles. Your standards were so high that you would fire a manager like Jose Mourinho twice. You fired Ancelotti. Like
They
this is where
fired
you guys
Conte
were.
after he won the league.
You
I mean,
understand what
this
I'm
is
saying? Like
this is just a
serious.
bleep, right? I mean, as much as we're struggling, same as to be said for Arsenal, right? Is Arsenal struggling as well?
No. These are different
Different.
conversations, right?
Yeah.
Different conversations. Like this, Chelsea went through a period of like there was over 2 decades of stability.
Maybe like,
Stability. Yeah,
was it 2 decades or like 15 years?
I think
yeah,
Roman bought the
kind of,
club
almost.
in 2003.
Okay.
Almost 2 decades, right? Like
Yeah.
it was just Abramovich and it was him. It was static. There was high manager turnover, but that didn't like it was clear what Chelsea was all
Yeah.
about. Like win
You know,
or
go
you're
home.
out, right?
Yeah.
So, and you had that because and Roman put the structure in place. So footballing people and everyone understood the culture. Like he was ruthless. You have to win or you go. But right now they're just to be all over the place. And I'm not surprised that Dada has done a very good analysis on the ownership issues, Clearlake and Boehly and everything. So those things have to get solved first before Chelsea will probably get to a point where they start looking at stability. I mean, look at teams that are doing well now or that have done well in the last 5 to 6 years. Pep, a City, they've had stability for a very long time. Pep's been there for a long time. Klopp was at Liverpool for a long time. Arteta has been at Arsenal for over 5 years now. So stability is key. Even if you want to hire and fire managers, there has to be at least some stability in the senior management position, right?
So yeah,
Agreed,
but
yeah.
my thing about Chelsea is that traditionally they have never kept a manager for longer than 3 years, even while they were doing well. So I think they function in chaos, like they function
Yeah.
in constant
But
turnover.
there was always
There's
stability at
always
the top.
Okay,
exactly
yeah,
at the
yeah.
top.
So like,
Yeah.
okay, so we'll say Abramovich was
Yeah.
stability, and
Yeah.
then everything else. But I still think that they will never have that with the team, with their manager. They don't need that structure. They don't need a Pep that'll be there for 5 years.
No.
If they had Pep, they'll be okay
But I think,
because they will win.
but AJ, to your point though, I feel like I was always in the camp that what Roman was doing at Chelsea was not sustainable. And the
Okay.
reason why I say it was not sustainable is because, and you saw that was evident when Roman got sanctioned, right? When Roman got sanctioned, the entire club could not function because we didn't have a board of directors. There was no one else making decisions, right? For example, if Roman wanted to paint the grass pink on Monday, by Tuesday it's pink, right? So I think that's good from a decision making. That's why Chelsea was very ruthless, comes in, fire the manager. But you cannot do that for another 20 years. Now, because what happened in football is you had a group like Man City, right, that's consortium led, but it also had like proper governance in place to where a singular person was not the one making decisions, right? So you had a fantastic organization. Same thing with Arsenal as well, right? You guys are owned by a single entity, right? But there's a board of directors. You just don't have a singular person making decisions. There's some sort of like corporate governance. The problem with Chelsea and Roman was it was just Roman. So if Roman was to die snorting coke off of the back of a Ukrainian model, the entire club is going to crumble because you had one person making decision. But right now, you look at Chelsea, you have like, 2-3 groups. There's a board of director. If Clearlake was to go bankrupt today, Chelsea can at least survive, right? So there's sustainability, but I'm of the opinion that now we're as chaotic as we were before, but now the chaos is sort of spread.
Okay.
Before it was just like you had a singular risk.
Okay.
You had an individual that was just making all the decision, and that in itself is very, very risky. And that's why when we wanted to sell Chelsea, we were confused. Roman was confused because there was no succession planning. Roman never thought like, they would take the club away from him. Right. What Roman should have done was have a plan in place. Like, look, if this club ever got taken away from me, I'm going to do X, Y, Z. But kind of going back to the billionaire ego, they're all egotistical. They think they're bigger than God. So it's like, nah, this club will never get taken away from me. I'm going to be here forever until that happened. And then now we're just trading one mess for the other. But I'm confident in these groups because, one thing Americans would never do, and I can say this from now to forever, they don't like losing money. Like they just absolutely hate losing money. So it's not like the days of Roman where it was throwing like, 200 million a year, 50 million a year. Nah, these boys are not doing that. Okay. Right?
Now, let me ask you this. You said they don't like losing, and I agree. I just think, even as an American, I'm like, I look at English Premier League is probably the only foreign sport I watch that's not American. And in America, when we watch teams, we support teams that you are a Houston Rockets fan, I assume. Yeah. And you're also a Houston Texans fan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Almost by default because you live in Houston.
Yeah.
And you've never seen those teams win anything since you've been in this country. Yet every day we can, if they come on TV, if they play a playoff game, you're going to support them.
Yeah.
I don't think Americans are gung-ho, we have to win. Yes, they want to win, obviously, but it's still the bottom line. The bottom line is still money.
It's still money. It's marketed. Yeah.
They're going to do their best. They're going to win. They're going to at least bring in revenue.
They're going to have
to they don't care about winning. But they're going
to have time to do something. Yeah. Money will be made. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm not sure about Chelsea fans, because what I've always thought about Chelsea fans is that, damn, these people are, I think all fans of sports mostly are cohesive, but I think y'all are really cohesive in that when you were under Roma, you were like, as a referring the managers, even y'all were agreeing. And I was like, these guys are very, very in unity with their Roman guy. Like, it was even win or go home for y'all too. Yeah. You guys weren't chasing that whole Arsenal. You had the same culture, you're top four. That wasn't fun for y'all. It wasn't fun for y'all to watch. You couldn't understand that mentality. You wanted your team to win the Champions League, even if they played nonsense throughout the process. You wanted them to come finish, even if they finished top. I just want to get y'all finished sixth and won Champions League, and that's how y'all got into Champions League the next year. And you guys were good with that. As long just little things that I noticed that progress didn't matter to you. It was trophies and hardware. Are you guys ready to wait for progress versus like instant gratification?
So I'll answer your question in two parts. The reason why Chelsea fans were aligned, cohesive, and singular-minded then was because Roman was. And Roman, so what happened with Chelsea was Roman was footing a lot of the losses for Chelsea, right? So you cannot have an organization or an institution that is cash flow negative forever. It's just not going to work. So what's happening with Chelsea was we could afford to have that mindset, because at the end of the season, Roman is going to write a check and everything is fine, right? Wow. But guess what? That's not real life. And that's what I've been trying to remind a lot of Chelsea fans is we live within financial constraints. At the end of the day, no matter how much you like something, you can like football for all you want, but at the end of the day, it's a business. There is the California Pension Fund invest in Clearlake. Do you think they care about Chelsea making Champions League? They don't care. The California Teachers Pension Funds just wants you to return the dollar they invested to $3. So now all of a sudden, if you go tell Roman, hey, Roman, we're going to lose 100 million. Oh, no problem. Here's another check for 300 million. But now, if you tell Todd Boehly, we're going to lose 100 million, they're like, no, because you have some teacher that's worked 60 years that's counting on their pension fund to generate returns. So everything has changed. So I feel like whether Chelsea fans like it or not, and I have to remind them this all the time, they always say, oh, I miss Roman. Hey, when Roman was here, dude, Roman is not coming back. That's fantasy. That's not real life. Wake up. Now we have to go through what a lot of teams go through, which is rebuilding, right? Paying the price for your decisions. Back in Roman days, we could afford to go buy, drink water, and there was no consequence for that action, right? But now, guess what? Welcome to real life. If you buy a bad player, you're going to eat up the losses, and the losses mean X, Y, Z.
Mm.
So a lot of so to answer your question, a lot of Chelsea fans are not ready, but slowly they're starting to understand this is real life, and you don't have a sugar daddy. You got to wake your ass up every morning, go to Starbucks, make $15 an hour, and pay your light bill like everybody else. So it is the reality of things. So welcome to the real world, Chelsea fans.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I love it. I don't love, well, actually, I do love what's happening to Chelsea, but what I'm saying, I love your summary is my point. Aya said they have spent a lot of money in a short while with no progress. So he's saying that's why Chelsea are struggling, I guess, in response to what Mondu said. But I will move on. We spent a lot of time on that topic. That gives us only 1 minute to talk about this review. Yeah, I mean, I watched this game. I watched the whole game, actually, because yesterday there was things on. What do you think? That I will start back with you.
So, this was one of those games. So the reverse fixture last year at Bournemouth was 0-0. This is one of those games that it really came down to quality. We got lucky because there were moments in the game where I felt like, man, Bournemouth should have been 3 goals up or 4 goals up. Sanchez made a fantastic save for the penalty, right? And what really changed this game for us was, if this was last year, would have had to keep Jackson on, would have had to bring in Modric for another player, or move Gallagher for Carney, would have just sucked. But guess what? 75 minutes, we needed a goal. We brought in Nkunku, we brought in Joao Felix, we brought in Sancho, right?
Yes.
And they made the difference. So I think, ultimately football can either go 2 ways. You put in a solid performance from 0 to 90 minutes and you win the game as a group, or you have an individual moment, brilliant moment from a player, and they win you the game. And that's what happened yesterday for Chelsea. Bournemouth deserved to have won that game, but we got lucky. I'm not going to talk about the referee decision. The ref was very, very poor. We're just not even going to talk about that. But we got lucky, but also too, we had quality players that could come in and win the game for us. And just that's what it was. Last year we would have asked Sterling and it would have just misplaced passes or do something dumb. But now we just have quality players that can come off the bench and do something. That's it. Imagine being able to bring Sancho, Nkunku, and Joao Felix and Tosin off of the bench at 75 minutes, and you still have.
You guys didn't rate Joao Felix. How did he come back to y'all anyway? Did you loan him out?
No, we had the opportunity to buy him last season on loan, and Poch said no.
Yes.
And then there was a good opportunity to buy him at a good discount at lower.
But is he permanently yours? This is not
yeah, at a good deal as well. Fantastic deal. Yep. Lower wages.
Then Sancho's a loan.
Sancho is a loan with it's not an obligation. Sancho is a loan with a obligation to buy, contingent on us finishing above 12 on the table. Okay. So you can more or less just say it's a loan to purchase, because probability of us finishing lower than 12 would probably be like less than 10%. So there's a high probability.
Very high.
It's very high. So
watch a game
look at Sancho though. But look at Sancho; it was looking good yesterday.
Sancho looked good. Mondu's like, I didn't watch his games.
I don't watch mid-table games.
That's fair. Hey, congratulations! You guys are gonna win the league. So
every time he says this, our chances reduced by 0.5%, and he said it. So he makes a point to say it 100 times. He's trying to reduce our chances. It's not going to work. But
EJ, all I know is, as Chelsea are going through their spell now, we must make this period work. Like we must make it matter. Like we must win something before they get their acts together. If not, we are going to be in big trouble.
Well said. You have to capitalize now. Yeah, because if I ever get some free time, or if I can get someone to do this for me, I want to analyze like the cyclical nature of teams in the EPL, right? I think there's a natural cycle with good and bad, right? And I think everyone is going to go through a trough.
Yep, absolutely.
be.
Yeah,
But to your point, though, you guys are on this
the upswing.
extension of this upswing now, but you have to make sure you capitalize. If you look at
Yeah.
Liverpool, they won the league and they won the Champions League. Should that team have won more? Because once Pep leaves City, it becomes an open season.
Open season.
Yeah. So
Yeah, they would have won more obviously if there was no City. That's the
exactly. Sometimes timing is everything. You don't want to be too good when someone is marginally better, right?
yeah.
So
Oof. Yeah, and Manchester United is going through their downswing.
they're going through a downswing again.
So it's
Yeah.
like it seems like it's 20 years though. It seems like it's a 20-year thing.
It feels like a 20-year cycle.
10
It's
to
starting to
20
look
years.
that
Yeah.
way. So
So anyway, I cost them. They're not going to do anything till 2034. 10 more years for them. But I was going to say this. What do you think about your coach? Before I go into kudos and donkey, what do you think about your coach
my coach,
so far? Yeah, yeah, your new coach.
uh, I mean, I like him. I mean, I don't have enough to
Okay,
build a
no
statue of
early
him.
concerns.
Yeah, I don't have enough to build a statue of him in front of my house yet. But at the same time, I'm not cussing him out. So I think I'm just TBD for me. Let's see how
Okay,
the season goes. Uh, he's more decisive than our previous manager,
okay.
which I like. But yeah, TBD for me. I don't love him. I don't hate him. We'll see. If he finishes top two, I might get a tattoo of him on my butt cheek. We'll see.
That'll be a miracle. I do think you guys will finish top 6. All right, kudos and donkey of the week. What do you have? Mondio, let's start with you. Haven't heard from you in a while. Just give me your kudos and your donkey at the same time.
Kudos will be if I have to pick today. Should I
Yeah,
put today into
yeah,
consideration?
yeah. Involved
Uh,
today.
yeah. Okay. So kudos would be Mikel Arteta for sure, 100%. For what he has done so far and what he continues to do, and how we hope he's gonna probably end the season with the Premier League trophy. Uh, Donkey of the week. It's a difficult one because I was considering the guy that ref the game against Brighton and Casemiro. But I will go for Casemiro as the donkey of the week because I think the reason I'm going to pick him is I think he still thinks he has a chance of playing top flight Premier League football in Ten Hag's system. But
Mhm.
I don't think it's going to happen for him because I think it's going to happen for him and Ten Hag. But he had a really really tough time uh, against the last opposition they faced. So yeah, that's my donkey of the week.
Okay, okay. What about you, Dada?
My donkey is gonna go to Everton, right?
Oof.
Just giving up a 2 goal lead 2 weeks in a row now. But that was ridiculous. And then I'm not going to mention his name because we don't want to give him any spotlight. The ref the Chelsea versus Bournemouth game. He gave a record yellow card in the EPL. I think 14, 15, right? 14.
Anthony Taylor, right?
You don't like y'all?
I don't want to say his name. I don't think he liked it. I think he has a personal vendetta against Chelsea, but I don't know. I don't have enough data to substantiate that, so I'm just gonna put it in the rumor category. In terms of kudos, I mean kudos to Chelsea, digging deep and getting 3 points at Bournemouth, right? I thought it was good team performance. Kudos to Jadon Sancho. He's been through a lot mentally as a player, and I really like the underdog story. In part of this is also biased, but I do want to see him do well at Chelsea. You hate to see young talents kind of get hoodwinked the way he did at United. Yeah, so if he can, this is his opportunity to make a comeback story and make a name for himself. So it would be good to see that.
Okay, good. I mean, Ten Hag. I saw something on Twitter about Ten Hag. What he said they benched Garnacho. I'm not sure if it's true, so I hate to repeat it, but maybe someone will confirm it. He said he benched Garnacho because he liked he liked something Cristiano Ronaldo said about Ten Hag verbally saying that United can't win the league, and
Is he a
Cristiano,
bad man manager?
he's a
I'm
horrible
starting to
man
think,
manager. I think
I'm
that's
starting to
clear.
think he is. Yeah.
Yeah, he's
I
not
I,
good.
I
He's a
can't
bad man
believe
and a bad coach.
yeah, I can't believe how bad he is.
Yeah,
I am actually shocked I can't believe I listen to a lot of Manchester United fans. I follow a lot of their conversations, and due to that, because I find them interesting, so I actually watch a lot of Manchester United games. He's so bad. Like it's almost like it's something we shouldn't say too much, so they just retain him in that position because they're not going. They don't have a chance with him in that. He has been so bad. Oh my god. Well, anyways,
Yep. So, but my donkey is who's my donkey? Maybe I think I agree with you about Everton. I feel like I was watching that game. I was like, you should. There's no reason for you not to have seen this through. Like you're just very porous. You're not giving your goalkeeper a chance. Even him is not doing well.
Yeah.
And what's his name? Calvert Lewin had a couple chances, great chances,
Yeah.
two good chances to make it 4-2 at the time, and didn't capitalize. And then they concede another goal. Then what was the last? My kudos definitely goes to my team. Like I'm so sorry. I was going to say no. I was going to say maybe Aston Villa for coming back, but I feel like that was sure. I wasn't even convinced that Everton would see that game out. But Arsenal for all the issues we had coming into the game and just like buckling down and winning the game was great. Aya says kudos is Haaland. He's on a mission to break records. So I want to say this because I play Fantasy Premier League and I vowed that Haaland will always be my captain. Then someone came out with news and said that Haaland may not play. And I was like, no matter what, unless Haaland dies, I will leave him on my team. But I'm not going to captain him. I'm going to waste my captain on him. Next thing this man came on was playing. So I captained Saka. So I'm very upset. But yes, he has scored. I think he has more. They say he has more goals than any club on his own. So that's crazy. Good for him. And he said Donkey's Ange for having issues with set pieces and continually dismissing the benefit of getting a specialist coach. Fair. And he says, I think that is fake news. I think he's referring to my claim about Ten Hag benching Garnacho. Then why did he bench Garnacho? Tell us. Why did he bench Garnacho? Okay. Well, yeah, I think we have come to the end of our show. Great job, everyone. Thank you for coming. Go Gunners. Let's see what happens next week. And goodbye.
Who you guys playing next week? City, right?
walk over.
We have something for City. Ask Haaland.
Easy
that
3
scoring
points.
hat-trick here, the brace here, hat-trick there. Haaland does now have one shot on target in 180 minutes of playing Arsenal. So
Saliba has something for him. Don't worry.
we have something for him. We got something for that.
All
right. Sorry. This one more comment. He benched because Diallo was in better form. Okay, fair. We'll see.
Sure.
All right, guys. This is.
Right.
See y'all next week. Bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.